Hey there, Joel here, and welcome to this online class. Today we are going to learn a new topic from class 8 science chapter, and that is, I always don't like to give out the name first, so bear with me and just look at this example over here. Okay, so I have a few numbers, and by guessing it you must have realized that they are the years, and that is 1960, 1970 up till 2020. Below that are some more numbers, and those numbers are nothing but the population of India. So in 1960 we had around 45 crores of population. By the 10 years later, that is 1970, the population increased to 55 crores. Up till now, that is, the record is till 2020, we've reached to a point where the population has become 136 crores. Now, why am I telling you this? Now look over here, we have the map of India. The area of the entire landmass of India doesn't increase, but on the other hand the population increases, which means if we want to feed people of India, we should be able to give them food in spite of the growth in population. That means if the number of population is increasing, we will have to increase the amount of crops that are produced. If not, then people of India will remain hungry, right? Now, there are two things that can happen. One is you start importing food from other nations so that people of India can be fed, or the other way is grow more so that it is enough. Land is not increasing, but we need to produce more, which leads to a point where we need to improve a technique so that we are able to grow more crops. And just for your information, India ranks in top 10 in exporting agricultural products. So with the increased amount of people, the population, we are still managing with so much of crop growing that we can export it to other nations. And that is what we are studying in this chapter, which is chapter number 1, crop production and management. So what do we mean by crop production? You have understood, because we have to create. Crop is what we are going to discuss in this chapter. Management is to handle it. Number of population is increasing, landmass is the same, still we have to make sure that we are providing food for each and every one. So that is called as management. You have a school. In that school there are students. Right now there are no students, I know, but at least virtually we have students, and we have teachers, we have the headmistress, we have the manager. All these people are managing y'all, right? So management is what we have to understand, but not people, but crop management. So till 10,000 BC, that is way before time, okay, people were nomadic, which means they were not settling at one place. They would be in a place for a particular period of time until they get those resources of food. So shelter they had, okay, and once the resources in that particular place are over, they would take all their belongings and move to a different place. Okay, that is what we call as nomadics. Later in time, people realized that okay, we can grow our own crops. We don't need to move to a different place only for food. Okay, so they ate a few raw fruits and vegetables. They used to hunt animals for food. And all these things changed in a later part of time, where people started realizing, okay, we can settle in one place, we can grow our own crops and survive. So plants of the same kind are cultivated at one place on a large scale. Okay, so that is called a crop. What is it? Maybe you are growing some kind of a plant, a fruit plant. Now you grow that probably in your garden as well, but growing it in the garden, we will not call it as a crop, because it is not cultivated on a large scale. It is just one plant, right? So when one crop is cultivated in one particular place and in large scale, it is called as a crop. You can see in that example, that entire range of field that you can see is just having one kind of a crop, one kind of a plant, and till your eyes can reach the horizon, right? It's the same plant. So a same crop is grown on a large scale, not just one and two, but a number of plants. That is called as crop. Please, you can remember and learn the statement. Could be asked for 1 mark. Okay, so examples over here are cereals, vegetables, fruits, and there can be many others. These are just 3 I've given. So anything that you can think of. Maybe you walk in your village outside and then you see in a particular field maybe rice is grown or wheat is grown. So same kind of a plant is grown on a large scale, is called as a crop. Now every crop that is grown, it requires a certain kind of a climatic condition. Let me give an example. Maybe you are planning to study and there is a kind of an environment that you would want. Okay, some people prefer complete silence. That's a condition that they require. No noise at all, right? Some people are okay to study when there is some background music going on. So that is nothing but a condition that is required. Same way, a plant, when you grow, it requires some suitable conditions. Based on that, it will start growing. So those conditions could be temperature, humidity and rainfall. Temperature is nothing but the amount of heat. Humidity is nothing but the amount of water vapor in the air, and rainfall, you understand. Okay, now based on these certain climatic conditions, we can classify a crop as a rabi crop, okay, and a kharif crop. Now you need to know when these crops are grown, which part of time. We are going to discuss it now, but I'll tell you a simple trick to remember, and that is how I remember it. The word kharif gives me a feeling of something that is wet and moist and all with like a kind of a rainy environment. Kharif. Okay, so these crops, kharif crops, are grown in the rainy season. So the other season, that's it. Okay, so remember, kharif means it for me at least, it gives me that feel of not so dry environment but a wet kind of an environment. So that's how I remember it. You could also remember that way. And by the way, this video is going to be a long one, so please understand, it's the entire chapter that I'm going to discuss today. So please bear with me and You can watch the video in parts, but please make sure you watch the entire video to have the entire understanding of this chapter. Now, Rabi crops and Kharif crops. Let us see what are the characteristics. Rabi crops are grown in the month of November and harvested in the month of April, whereas Kharif crops are grown in the month of June and harvested in the month of October. So June is the time where it starts raining in India, right? So those are Kharif crops. Then Rabi crops are winter season crops. Kharif crops are rainy season crops. Examples of Rabi crops are wheat, barley, pea, gram, and examples of Kharif crops are rice, cotton, maize, groundnut. So these are kind of crops that require a lot of water, lot of rain. So they can, ask you a question saying like, why rice is grown in the month of June. Why? Simple reason is because it is a Kharif crop and it requires a lot of water. So based on the type of crop we are discussing, you can remember whether it is Rabi crop or Kharif crop. So a number of give reasons could be asked, simple, just like this, or you can be asked as a fill in the blank and so on. So I'm not going to focus too much on how the questions are asked, but when you are trying to watch this video and learn and understand, try and also think of it in the perspective of, okay, if I was a teacher, what kind of a question I would ask from the slide? If you are able to bring that thought in your mind, then you would not require question and answers as such to learn. Don't by heart science, understand it. That's more important. All right. So look at this picture which is below over here, and we are going to discuss a scenario. Okay, it's an environment of a classroom where the benches and the place is completely dirty. Okay, and say you are entering in such class. What do? The first thing that you'll choose that place for you and clean that place, right? Why do we clean? Because we want a neat environment. You will not just go and sit there, right? You will just go, at least if not cleaning, you will at least do that right? So you clean the place. Same way, when a plant or a crop needs to be grown, we find a place and that place needs to be plowed. Okay, what is plowing, we'll discuss, but understand, probably you already know what is plowing. So it needs to be cleaned. Next is you will go and settle down there, because once you have cleaned that classroom and that place of yours, then you are ready to sit, right? In the perspective of crops, it is nothing but sowing the seeds, settling down. Next is you will remove all your books and keep them in your desk. That is nothing but kind of adding manure to that crop. Then you will start, when the teacher comes and teaches you, you will start adding information. In other words, you can remember it as adding water to the crop so that it grows. The way you are growing intellectually, the water will help the plant to grow. Next is, you would avoid talking to a few people. Why? Is because sometimes some people are not matching the way you think, and then you don't like them, you start disliking them, and then you don't want to talk to certain people. So you avoid a few. That is nothing but kind of, in the crop terms, removing the weeds. Okay, I don't want those unwanted plants around, so we remove them. Next is studying and passing. So once you have done all these things, you will study better and then you will pass that class. And okay, that is kind of, in terms of crop, it is harvesting. Okay, and last is, there are so many, in that entire year you were there in one class, and you made new friends, and then you have some kind of memories, and then you store those memories for the rest of your life. And in crop terms, you can say that the harvested seeds, or the grains that you got, returns from the plant, are stored. So these are a few steps which are in your regular life, which I've tried to relate it to the crop life so that you can remember. Okay, and the first one, let us discuss each and every one now. The first one is preparation of the soil. We need to prepare. Whenever there is a function at your home, you prepare for it, right? It's not like you don't do that. You plan it up well in advance, getting all the food items and drink and everything, so that the event goes well. So there is a preparation that takes place. So before you start growing a crop, preparation is required. Next one, it's the most important task in agriculture. It's not just like, today I decide that, okay, I will grow a crop, and then I take seeds and then just start throwing them. You need to prepare the soil for those crops. Okay. Next, why is it important? Because it allows the roots to penetrate. If you go to a classroom with a complete blocked mind, okay, and you're not in the mood to listen, then that information doesn't sink in, right? So same way, the plants need a very good soil environment so that the roots can penetrate deep down into the ground, and because of which you need to prepare that soil. Next, it helps in the growth of microbes and earthworms. Now, if the soil is hard, okay, and dry, then it is not possible for earthworms and microbes to work around in that environment. That's the reason you start preparing the soil, you start plowing the soil, so that there are no crumbs in that area, but the soil is much more softer. It is also called as tilling or plowing. Preparation of the soil in one word would be called, either you say it as tilling or plowing. Now, plows that are used to make that soil loose can be of iron or wood. Okay, initially they would use wood, olden times. Now even iron plows are used. Then plows are used for tilling. I've already told you that. Hoe is used to remove weeds and loosen the soil. Okay, it's a kind of an instrument which is used to remove the weeds. Cultivator is a tractor driven, so it is a kind of a machine, a kind of a structure, you can say, which is connected to the tractor, which helps in plowing. Next, after that entire plowing is done, the soil looks all good, then you settle down. You remember that? Cleaning the place, and then you settle down. So settling down is nothing but sowing of seeds. Okay, selection of seeds is very important, because imagine you go to a place, a market, and then you get seeds to grow a crop, and then the shopkeeper says there are two kinds of them. One is when if you grow, only 10 grains will come, the other 20 grains will come. Okay, you can't predicted, but a rough calculation. So which kind of a crop would you prefer growing? You would definitely take those seeds which give you higher yields, right? More grains later on. So selection of high yield seeds. Seeds float or sink in water. Now what does this mean? Now once you get those grains, just take it and start sowing everywhere. You take them and put them in water, okay? And there will be so many grains that will just start floating on the water. Now, if they are floating, that means those seeds are hollow. They are not going to give you any yields once you start growing them and they start growing. So all those kind of seeds which are floating on the surface of the water are thrown off. The sunk one are the ones that you will actually grow. This is an example of a seed drill. Because you remember the initial slide, population growing, we have to feed each and every one. Because of which the olden traditional methods of crop production are not going to help, because they are going to produce less amount of resource later on. So you need to improve your technique so that you can grow more amount of, or more resources could be taken in afterwards. Because of which farmers started using something called as a seed drill. It is connected to the tractor, okay, and it is just the tractor is moved so that those seeds are grown. Now what is the benefit of growing seeds or sowing seeds with the help of the seed drill? There is uniformity in the depth and the distance. If someone would if a farmer would sow the seeds, he is not going to put one seed, measure that distance, put the next seed, and so on, right? So he will randomly start putting. And when the crops are growing, you might realize that some crops are very close to each other, or two plants are very close to each other, whereas the other somewhere one is far away. So we don't want that. We want uniformity. It has to be same. In what? In the depth, so that the resources are absorbed by the plants properly, and the distance has to be proper, because that every uniform distance is going to make sure that each plant grows properly, and not just two friends fighting. Like imagine this yourself, there's just one chair and two people want to sit over there. They will definitely start pushing, and then there will be that fight. Same way, there is a fight between the plants for resources, so that all these things, there's no problem with regards to all this. We use something called as seed drill. It helps in keeping the uniformity and the distance. Next is it saves time and labor. Because it's a machine, you just imagine that entire seed drill is moving and the crops are the seeds are continuously being sown way quicker. But if it was one human being manually sowing the seeds, then he would have to dig a little, then put the seed, dig the next place, then put another seed, and then it takes a lot of time. So that it becomes faster, seed drill is a good option. Okay, it saves time and it saves labor. You don't require too many people. One person, the one who is just driving that tractor, is enough to sow seeds in the entire field. It avoids overcrowding of the plants. That's what I told you, right? The plants are not growing close to each other, they are growing at a distance. So there is a lot of space for them. Next is after the seeds are sowed, and then with all the blessings of the Almighty, and those plants start growing up, and then you feel so nice when you see that seed grown. Once it is grown, you need to take care of it. And that's when you start adding manure or fertilizer. Okay, so there are two options. What is this? We'll discuss right now. So you either add manure or fertilizer. Okay, now nutrients for healthy growth of the plant. Now what does this mean? When we add manure and fertilizer, we are giving nutrients. For example, if a child is born and then the mother will give him mother's milk, and then the child will grow up, and then you don't feed the child anything after that. He's just there with kanji, pez hawiltega, every day in, day night, pez. Will he be a strong child in the future, or probably at that point of time? No, because he is not given good nutrition, right? Good food. So same way, for a plant, you need to give it nutrients, and that's when you start adding, manure or fertilizer. It gives the nutrients for a healthy growth of a plant. Now, helps to replenish the soil. Now, if a farmer has a particular plot and it starts growing crops over there, he'll grow a crop in Kharif crop, Rabi crop, Kharif crop, Rabi crop, and finally, and it doesn't add manure nor fertilizer. That soil, is it going to produce its own nutrients? No, the nutrients are going to get over, right? If you have a container at home which has some biscuits and you start eating those biscuits, at one point of time, those biscuits are over, right? There are no more biscuits in the container. So same way, when you start, or when a farmer starts growing crops, he needs to add manure and fertilizer, because the soil is finally going to say, Baba muko ani nutrients nai, makadi, right? So adding manure and fertilizer helps to replenish the soil. Replenish means to regain that nutrient value. Now, manure is made from decomposition of dry leaves and waste and all that. Fertilizers, on the other hand, are made from chemicals. Okay. Examples of fertilizers are urea, ammonium sulfate, then potash, NPK, in short it is called, which is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. You can check it out here. Okay. Please learn the examples of fertilizers. Okay. Now, excess of fertilizer, adding excess of fertilizer, it reduces the soil fertility. How can, you will just wonder now, at one point of time, okay, where is it? At one point of time, I'm saying it replenishes the soil, and the next point of time, I'm saying it reduces soil fertility when you add fertilizer. What does this mean? How can adding a fertilizer reduce the soil fertility? Is the kind of a question that comes to your mind? If so, perfect, you are paying attention. So adding fertilizer, now just go 2 points up. I said fertilizer is made from chemicals, right? The moment you add extra chemicals, it is going to destroy all the microorganisms, the earthworm, all the other living organisms in the soil, by that reducing the fertility, because earthworm helps in is called the friend of the farmer, because he helps in loosening the soil. Now because there are too many chemicals, all the microbes and all will die off from that place, and that will reduce the soil fertility. Because there are too many chemicals or adding fertilizer, it spoils the texture of the soil. So adding excess of fertilizer is bad. For that matter, anything, you can have one chocolate maybe once in a week or twice in a week. But if you are going to eat chocolates every single day, every single hour, it is bad. Excess of it is bad. Excess of anything is bad. So same way, for plants as well, excess of fertilizer is not good. Okay, and next it causes water pollution. How it causes? We add fertilizer in the soil. How is it causing water pollution? Simple logic. When you put those extra fertilizers in the soil, because of the rain, the water that is flowing, those the chemicals get mixed with water and go into the water bodies. That's how causing water pollution. Okay, manure improves soil texture. I told you manure is material made from decomposed products, right? So because they are decomposable, it improves the soil texture. Crop rotation also helps in for crops to grow properly. Now what happens? See, I grow a particular crop in one season. It will take all the nutrients from the soil and grow. Once you have harvested that crop, okay, next crop is something different. So that crop will use a different kind of nutrients, and thereby using the certain kind of nutrients for a certain plant to grow. You can't give, for example, a person who does a lot of gymming and exercises, he requires protein, a lot of proteins. Okay, you can't give him carbohydrates. So for him, his nutrients are proteins. So like that, a kind of a crop will require kind of nutrients. Okay, the other way how there is increase in the nutrients in the soil is by this rhizobium bacteria. You have studied this in the 7th standard, where these rhizobium bacteria are found in the nodules of the roots of the leguminous plant. What are nodules? Let me just draw something for you. Okay, so if this is a root, and every root, right, a tiny root, there will be some kind of nodules, like tiny openings. In those openings, you have this rhizobium bacteria. Okay, this rhizobium bacteria helps for fixing of nitrogen. Nitrogen is in abundance in the air, but a plant cannot directly take in that nitrogen. It has to take it through the roots. So leguminous plants or the rhizobium bacteria helps in this nutrients. Now once the crop is grown and it dies, they sometimes burn that entire field, and then that ash, and then a new crop is grown. That is a kind of a procedure to increase the nutrients in the soil. So they help in fixing of nitrogen. Just pause this video and probably you can write the difference between fertilizer and manure and learn that. Main difference: fertilizers are chemicals, manure is naturally created. Okay, where they are created and all that, you can look at the entire chart over here and learn that. Next part is irrigation. Once you have you have sowed the seeds and then the plant has grown, you add manure to it, fertilizer, plant is feeling good. But if you don't give the plant water, plant's not going to live. Right? Same way, I give you all the possible things. You have a phone, you have good internet, fast internet, you have PUBG on your phone if you play it, or Free Fire, and you have good delicious food, but I don't give you water at all. Do you think you'll be able to live healthy? No, because 60% of your body is actually water. So the lesser hydrated you are, the bad environment it's going to create for your body. Same way, a plant contains 90% of water. As humans, we just have 60% of water, but a plant will have 90% of water in its entire plant. So, plant requires a lot of water. And how do we get that? through irrigation. Okay, germination of seeds happen only when there is water. Germination can't happen in a dry environment. If you notice, if you walk in a forest, you will see certain seeds, or maybe jackfruit seeds or cashew seeds. If they had fallen down, they will germinate in the rainy season, not in summer season, right? In the summer season, they'll just be like a seed just lying over there. But because there is water, they start to germinate. Protects the crop from both frost and hot air currents. No one goes and puts an umbrella for a crop because it is hot outside. If we are feeling hot, we put a fan or an AC, but the crop has to remain there in the hot area, right? So the more the water, the more the environment, cool environment for them. That's like their AC. So it protects them from frost and hot air currents. Sources of irrigation could be a well, a tube well, pond, lake, river, dam, canal. Why did I put sea over there? Sea is also source of water, right? But it is a source of excessive salts. You can't have so much of salt for a plant. That's the reason sea is not added. Okay, so you use resources which are of fresh water. These are two kinds of modern ways of irrigation. Now, just because I said plant requires 90% of water, you can't just start giving plant only water. Same way, like the way I was telling you, you are kept in a room, all good conditions are for you, but I don't give you water. Same way, I can't remove all those good conditions and start giving you only water. It's not going to help. So there are different techniques of adding water to a crop, and these are either you add water by drip irrigation or by sprinklers, okay, or sprinkler irrigation, you can say. Now, what is this? If you notice carefully, look at that picture very carefully. There's a crop grown, and every row there is a pipe. Now, each pipe near just the roots of that crop, there is a tiny hole created in that pipe. Okay, now because there's a tiny hole, water which is flowing through it will start pouring down drop by drop by drop, right? That is called as drip irrigation. Simple. Next is this sprinkler system. Nothing, a sprinkler is put, so when the water is gushing through it, there is a kind of a mechanism which will move left and right, okay, and it will start sprinkling water. It doesn't throw water in abundance, but it starts sprinkling water, like sometimes you would if you are maybe sleeping and you're not waking up, and then your mom might come and dip her hand in water and sprinkle a little water on you. Sprinkle. She doesn't pour the entire jug full of water on you, right? Sprinkles. That is called a sprinkler system. Water is sprinkled on the plant continuously, so the plant has that good amount of time to absorb that water very nicely. So two kinds of new methods of irrigation. One is a drip irrigation, the other one is sprinkler system. Once you have prepared the soil, you sow the seeds, and then you add manure, you add water, and because you have given such good nutrients to that particular area, to that crop, there will be some other plants which are also present over there, okay, and they will also start growing. So protecting the plants from weeds is important. Because you have given so many nutrients, they also will start growing. Okay, weeds are nothing but undesirable plants. Undesirable, I don't desire them to grow, but they're growing with the crop. Those are called as weeds, undesirable plants. A farmer has not grown weeds. आज किसको यार आज आके शैतान weeds रोया. That's not one. Okay, so weeds are undesirable plants. You don't desire to grow them, but they are growing because you have given good environment to the crops of yours. They also start growing. Okay, then they compete with the crop. If you just say, all trouble for me to remove all those and let them grow. What they will do, they will start taking all the nutrients that you are adding and they will also start growing. They are fighting with the crop indirectly, not with the guns, but they're fighting with the crop, and thereby the crop will not have those nutrients, but the unwanted weeds will start growing. Tilling, uprooting and killing of the weeds. Tilling is one method. So what farmers do is they plow that field, right? The first step is because if there were any unwanted plants, they will be turned and they'll die over there. Uprooting them way before even you start adding nutrients. So that's one method of removing the weeds. The other one is killing them by spraying weedicide, or by manually pulling them up from the roots. Uproot before they are uprooted before they bear flowers and seeds. Now, why do you think this is important? Why do I have to uproot the weed before it flowers and produces seeds? Is because if you let it flower, the more seeds will start, because of the wind, they'll start hawa ke jhoke se, that way. So they will go and fall on a different place, and then there will be more weeds growing up. So you need to uproot them before even they start to flower. Kill them when it is one and not many. And the picture speaks for itself. Farmers use weedicides. It is not possible to, if you have a large plot where crops are grown, that I will go and remove weeds and keep doing that. By the time you reach the end of the plot, you will realize that weed has grown way more, and then the crop is already dying over there. So weedicide helps to destroy the weeds way faster. Once all these things are done, you have taken care of your crop like your own baby. It's time for it to harvest, right? You get those seeds, and that's what is called as cutting off the crop after it matures is called as harvesting. You harvest it when it is grown perfectly. It takes about 3 or 4 months for a cereal crop to grow. That means you're growing cereals, and it will take almost 3 to 4 months. Use a kind of a machinery like this to harvest crops also. Okay, manually it is harvested with a sickle. Sickle looks something like this. Probably you must have seen this. Okay, it is used to harvest the crop. So they're going to hold the crop and then cut it. Okay, if it's a machine, then they use something called as a harvester. What the harvester does, there is a kind of rolling blades. It is just going to go and keep harvesting that crop immediately. Again, saves time, saves labor. Threshing is a step after this, and when they will get all those harvested crop, I have to remove the seeds. I don't start eating the leaves also. So the seeds have to be removed. So that process, when you remove the seeds from the shaft, is called as threshing. You can read about the harvest festivals, the festivals that we celebrate, Baisakhi, Diwali, and they are related to harvesting of the crops. It was a kind of a celebration that was done to enjoy that feeling of, I have taken care of this plant for months, and now I can see the fruits of it. So that happiness was celebrated. You can pause the video and read about it. And finally, once you have harvested, all the threshing, everything is done, those seeds need to be stored somewhere. You can't just like, someone else will take it otherwise, or worms and rodents will start eating it up. So you need to store in a proper place. So safe, moisture free, insect and rats free, microorganism free environment is what is required. So you have a place where there is no lack of moisture, which means now once I have the seeds, once I have the end result, I don't need more moisture, I don't need more water vapor in the air. If you know, but probably if you help your parents, after they get the seeds, or even chilies, they keep it for drying outside, right, so that the moisture evaporates and they are completely dry, because having moisture in food items is going to destroy them. So on a large scale, when you store resources, it is stored in cellars and granaries, okay, and pictures are something like this. Silos are nothing but kind of metal containers where seeds are kept, and because it is metal, they have the perfect environment. You create it so that if there's little increase in the moisture, there are temperature settings which you can punch in, and then automatically that you can say a kind of an AC. Okay, you maintain the temperature for the proper safety of those crops. The other way is granaries, where they are put in jute bags and just kept in one place. Clean, moisture free, rodent free. Okay, because if you leave all rats over there, you will not have your end result. You will celebrate your festival, and then on the other side there won't be any seeds left for you. Okay, now, and the last part of this entire chapter is animal husbandry. Just the way you do farming, there are places where they take care of animals, okay, and they give them proper food, they give them proper shelter, and they give proper care, and finally they kill them and eat them. Okay, that's how you get chicken. So because there is poultry farming, and that is called as animal husbandry. You take care of the animals, giving them proper food, shelter, and care. When there is some kind of germ that is spreading, disease for animals, you give them medicines and protect them for your food later. Okay, that is called as animal husbandry. With that, I conclude this chapter. I'm sure this video is going to be a long one. Please bear with me. The reason I have to do this is because it's a tedious task to edit the videos if I do it in parts. Okay, so please understand, and I hope you like this video and like the entire explanation the way I put it across to you. If you did, then please hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel, because when you share, and that's because you care and you learn. Okay, till then, take care and bye-bye.